Where is World of Warcraft's player housing? This question has been on everyone's minds for many years, and in today's video we're going to look at exactly where World of Warcraft's player housing has been and why we've not got it yet. Thank you as always to my wonderful patrons who continue to support the channel. You'll get access to my awesome guides on erosiumtv.com, which has just had a complete website rehaul, so everything is completely fresh and brand new. Check it out, you won't be disappointed. Before we get into this guide, feel free to check out the link in the description below where you can actually read this guide alongside watching the video. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So to get to the point exactly, World of Warcraft player housing does not exist currently at the date of recording this video. Blizzard has tried player housing in the past in the form of the Garrisons, which was in Warlords of Draenor. Unfortunately, the player base felt this encouraged players to play by themselves in a secluded garrison rather than playing with other people. And at the end of the day, World of Warcraft is a social game, so therefore, if you are not playing with people, why is it an MMO RPG? They have a point there. Sadly, since this was Blizzard's first shot at player housing and it got shot down, Blizzard have never ever attempted it again, and thus we have no player housing in World of Warcraft. So to answer your question, does World of Warcraft have player housing? Is sadly, at the moment, no player housing exists in World of Warcraft. But that doesn't mean it's not going to. Each day, players hope and wish and pray and beg the almighty God of Blizzard to deliver thy player housing. It is thought among many of the player base that this is a feature that is going to be put into the game at some point during, the World of Warcraft development plan. But there has been no comment directly from Blizzard yet as to when this will be, or even confirming, yes, we're going to get player housing. But it has been offhandedly mentioned in several interviews, the thought of doing it. Actually, in a recent article from Blizzard, it was actually discussed how much resources it would actually take to implement such a large player housing system in World of Warcraft, and how this would actually halt and even severely slow down the development of Dragonflight. We don't want Dragonflight to be a bad game at the end of the day, because that means no one's going to play World of Warcraft. However, we might see it in the future. I've often said this myself as a personal Erosium opinion. I think that we should stop pushing Blizzard to say, Blizzard, we want new content! And start to instead say, Blizzard, we want you to go back in time. Speak to Chromie. Our Chromie, she'll help you out. Chromie will help you out, Blizzard. We want you to go back in time. And we want you to have a word. We want you to look at all of the systems that you've designed over the years. And Blizzard, there's a lot of bloody systems. We want you to look at those systems and we want you to develop them, redevelop them to the point that we can use and play them once again. There are so many World of Warcraft systems in the game that we could go back to and enjoy, but realistically, going back to them, they're just too easy. They're way too easy. For example, Garrison invasions are an absolute blast to do still. I did one 2 days ago, and guess what? It was super fun, but way too easy, no challenge whatsoever, and I just felt it was a walk in the park. Imagine if that was redone in a way with brand new mobs, or whatever current mobs that there were of today. That could be a really interesting feature. Now, let's not get too pedantic and specific about that one example. There are many examples of this in World of Warcraft. Making old systems such as Island Expeditions, Visions of N'Zoth, Garrison Invasions, even BFA in Darkshore, and all of these wonderful systems that are in the game but are just completely irrelevant, we could actually redo and bring it up to the today's standard of replayability, whether this is in the form of players being able to play from, 10 to 50 in these zones, or whether it is current content for level 60s, we'll be able to go into them and get involved in that content. There's so much unused content in World of Warcraft that Blizzard could redo to make fresh. I think player housing is one of those things, such as the Garrison. I think this could largely be improved. and wouldn't actually take much work to redesign completely. Just take the Garrison system, say, hey guys, we've got this Garrison system, but what we're actually going to do is just redo it completely to make it relevant in today's content. We're going to make it less about farming your garrison and making gold with your garrison, and more about displaying your achievements, creating unique, interesting things in the game that makes the players want to go to, a friend's garrison, making a player want to go to a guild garrison. These types of things where you can display a guild hall with all of your guild's achievements. These are wonderful things that could be included in the game and wouldn't actually take that much resources either. With the Garrison being implemented in World of Warcraft and being thought of as in quite a negative sense by the WoW community, it has really dissuaded the idea of Blizzard wanting to invest resources into doing this, because, hey, what if they design another player housing and it's another flop? Player housing should be something we're proud of to show our friends, right? Something that encourages a certain level of the MMO experience. It's not about being a singular player in a hidden little zone away from everyone. My precious. No, not that. We want to instead be the dwarves from The Hobbit. Everyone's drinking, eating cheese, passing everything over, doing little dances and getting down tonight. That's what it should be like in player housing. So game-changing ideas for player housing in World of Warcraft. While player housing in World of Warcraft could bring things like brand new professions, carpentry, tree cutting, and expand on existing professions like blacksmithing, leatherworking, and tailoring, with the inclusion of things like furniture crafting, upholstery, carpentry, decor, everything like this would give professions a whole new meaning to World of Warcraft, and players would feel like they have some certain level of control over how their game feels. The psychological impact of this will tie the player into wanting to play the game more, therefore meaning Blizzard's return on investment for subscriptions is going to definitely go up, and therefore it is hugely worth the resources spent on developing such a thing. Not only that, but since the auction house merge, the WoW economy has gone a bit swayed. It's a bit difficult for new World of Warcraft players to actually make some gosh darn gold. How on earth are they going to make enough gold to buy a WoW token when everything, all the materials and things like this are worth absolutely nothing? Well, this is fantastic because with the potential change of these professions being able to, craft furniture, upholstery, carpets, decor, everything like this, you're going to reinvigorate all of the old World of Warcraft materials and make them useful again. Imagine, say, having a carpet for every single expansion. Oh, all of the cloth is now relevant. Great! What if we had chairs from every expansion? Now you've got potential metals and ores and leather being used from every expansion. These various different things will drive the player economy up and hopefully generally increase everything, all potential gold making methods for World of Warcraft and make the game a lot more fun. Now, don't tell me this isn't going to work, because I've played New World, Sunshine, Tinkerbell, good sir, I played New World, and guess what? I loved cutting trees. I've spent literal hours, and I know it is pathetic, and I am a sausage for doing this. Cutting trees. I loved it. I don't care what you think about that, but I loved it. I enjoyed cutting trees. I enjoyed going from a crappy tree cutter who just used a little axe and be like, to going and smashing massive trees with like 2 or 3 hits like a badass. That feeling of going from that to this was amazing in New World, and I really wished it was in World of Warcraft. Additionally, it was really exciting to be able to take those piles and piles of woods and turn them into things that I can either sell on the auction house or use as part of my player housing. This is something Blizzard is lacking and really would be edged out of the MMO market if they don't catch up with it, in my opinion. Now, say we've got potential player housing in World of Warcraft, what would we actually put in the player house? Great question, and I'm so glad you asked, random viewer of mine who's thinking that in the distant future. Mini figures of raid bosses that we have smashed, killed, and bashed into non-existence anymore. Imagine you go and kill the jailer. Finally, we killed him. And then you're able to loot him and you get a mini figurine. You can stick this on a shelf in your player housing, or potentially you can even turn it into a statue in your player housing if you know someone who is, say, is a carpenter or, say, is a stonemason. Don't you dare suggest other professions to me, Erosium, good sir. Sorry, you're right. I'm overwhelming you. You're dead right. Let's get back to this subject. Honorable kills, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, whatever it is you want to have in terms of medals. You could wear that medal like a necklace. That could become part of your appearance as a player. You could stick it on a shelf. You could have plaques to display how many honorable kills. Say you've got 1 million honorable kills in World of Warcraft and you've grinded for years in PvP. You're covered in blood permanently. Well, you should be able to display your badassery in your player housing. What about mount trophies? All those mount collectors who've sweated and grinded and chased those poor horses to death. These people who've got like 500 mounts should have a way of displaying their massive mount collection in some way, shape and form. Whether that is having a trophy to say, yo, you got 500 mounts, you're an official sweat badass. Or say, or even in your player house, what if you just had like a World of Warcraft stables like in the Garrison? Just saying, that was a good idea. What if that actually could display, say, a bunch of your mounts and you could flick through which ones you like and you could change it really easily. Pet collector trophies. Now, there's a couple different options that you could actually go for with the pet collecting trophies. Is you can have a certain amount of pets collected, gives you a certain trophy. Or you could have a little pet coliseum that has a bunch of your favorite pets displayed there. That could be really cool as well. Warlords of Draenor has something like that, which was really interesting, and I definitely think that could work in player housing in the future. But what about leveling trophies? Some players don't actually have that much time to play the end content of World of Warcraft, and they're a filthy casual, and they don't care who knows it. The leveling to them is what they enjoy doing. There is nothing wrong with this. I'm one of these players. I absolutely love leveling. Even though I do high-end content as well, I also absolutely adore leveling characters up, and that's why I've got so many characters on my account. These players should have a trophy to say, yo, you've got like 50 level 60s, you're an official badass. There should be trophies for this that they could put in their player housing. But what about those transmoggers? Those people with the eye for fashion? Oh, look at this. I've got a jumper. It's such a nice jumper. What about these people? These people deserve to display their fancy transmog sets with armor stands, something that could be used in carpentry, could even be used in blacksmithing to make armor stands where you can actually just put all your armor on there and your favorite transmog sets are displayed for your friends and visitors alike to see. That would be so cool, right? If this would take too much work on Blizzard's end, they could even do paintings, which could automatically display your different transmog sets. This is really cool. I think definitely worth looking into. All these ideas are great, but what would it take to implement this into World of Warcraft? That's a really good question. I'm so glad someone thought of that. It would actually take quite a lot of resources. Being realistic, it would take a ginormous, massive amount of resources to implement this into World of Warcraft. A lot of the old models would have to be redesigned to be brought up to date and then re-rendered to actually be able to use in a player housing, so it's not as simple as boom, bang, ping, stick that on there, stick that on there. There we go, we've got player housing, mate. It's not that simple. That being said, being able to choose your player housing location would be really, really good. I know we have the Garrisons and Warlords of Draenor, but imagine if we could put this in any zone of World of Warcraft. Imagine that. That would be so cool. Every single zone in World of Warcraft, if it had some, I don't know, little area that you could choose to clear out and make that your home in World of Warcraft, this would be such an epic feeling. I don't know about you guys, but I've always wanted to live in the dead desert of Tanaris. I don't know why. I love the really light waterly look, and then the sands, the flowing sands all over the place. I'd love to have like a castle built out of sand where I could call that my player house. That would be a really cool feeling. Additionally, I would love to have one in Elwyn Forest. Be pretty cool there as well. Can you imagine what it'd be like to even have one in Crystal Song Forest? Your house would be made of crystals. Is that not amazing? I think it's really, really important for Blizzard to consider the implications of player housing. Not only is this a way for players to feel like they can show their achievements, they can show what they've done in World of Warcraft, but it also ties them into playing the game. They feel like they've got such a more visual connection to their achievements within World of Warcraft. I think more and more as the game goes on, people start to feel like achievements are just completely irrelevant and meaningless. I'm one of those, actually. When people say to me, how many achievements points you got? I'm like, do people actually count those? Like, sorry, but if I've killed a boss, I'm happy I killed that boss. I'll remember that. But looking at achievement points, it doesn't really display much to me personally. I don't have a lot of value. A lot of people will say that they have value in that, but I think that a huge majority of people just don't care about it. Having a visual reminder of your achievements, however, is a completely different feeling. It creates epic cooling and epic meaning, which is such a, I know it's a psychological term, but it's really important for MMOs to have this in order to retain their player base, and this would really, really help on a whole. Several times when I felt like I wanted to go to a place in-game to get to a special area, I've thought, I'm just going to play New World because, that actually has player housing. I believe Final Fantasy even has player housing. Never played it, but I've heard it does. And I think that World of Warcraft not having that is a dire shame that should be rectified and corrected as soon as possible. That being said, I know I'm a rather outspoken person. I've got my opinions, my beliefs, but I would really, really be open to hearing what you guys have to say. So leave us a comment in the section below. And if there's something you want to see added into the game, please feel free to let us know. This is Erosium out, and I'll see you next time.